Yes, and the runner-up, Michael Smith, for a long time has been a force to be reckoned with. But the one thing he still hasn't done is win a major. His eighth major final, third this calendar year, including the World Championship and UK Open, but 8 defeats. He said he didn't do too much wrong in that final. Do you agree, or was he just unlucky?
Yeah, I do agree with him. I think obviously if you're a Michael Smith fan, you've got to be thinking, is it ever going to happen for him? 8 major finals, as you say, and 3 already in 2022. And the 3 this year, he's been close in all 3 of them. The World Championship, 5-4 up in sets, lost 7-5. The UK Open lost out in that decider to Danny Noppert. And then the one this past weekend, the European Championship. Okay, he was never in front in that game, but he got it back to 8-9 behind, had a dart to go 9-0 in a race to 11 and ended up losing 11-8. So only 3 legs away from getting over the line in the end. And okay, it's not going to mean much to him now, but he's averaging that final, the 100 average. That is the highest that he's thrown in all the 8 major finals that he's been in. And you look back at the major finals he's had, and he's thrown a 95 plus average in 6 of those 8 finals. So he's not played badly in the majority of them. And as you say, he said after the final he didn't do too much wrong, but fair play to Ross. He did what he had to do. And I think Michael is right there. I think Ross Smith, he did do what he had to do, and he put a performance in that final. You've called it there, performance of the year. It's going to take some stopping in our awards at the end of the year, but very few players would have been able to finish on the right side of a performance like that against Ross Smith. And I spoke about the early big finishes that he had there, the 3-ton plus finishes in that early part of the game. He had another one later on, and I think there was only one time in that final Ross Smith missed 3 darts in hand at a double, and Michael did punish him on that occasion. But there was very few opportunities, real good opportunities that Michael Smith had in that final. He was feeding off very few crumbs in that final, and in the end it did come down to the fine margins. They both had 8 180s. Ross Smith had a few more 140s, and his finishing was slightly better in terms of percentages, but in the end, the back end of that final, it did come down to 1 missed dart at tops, and then the 117 finish, hitting a single one with his first dart, not getting a shot at a double. And if he takes one of those 2 finishes out, it could have ended differently. You never know. But these are the super fine margins that we're talking about in this final, and against a performance like Ross Smith put. But we've said it before, all the way through the event, Michael Smith, he was showing all the hallmarks of a major champion. Came through that tricky first game with Karel Sedlacek, then the 106 average, the 1-2-1 on the ball to beat Josh Rock 10-8, gets past Luke Humphries, Dirk van Dijvenbode, 2 close games, and in the end just lost to someone that played better than him on the night. And when you're averaging 108 180s, 47% on the doubles, and you don't win, I think you've just got to hold your hands up and say it wasn't my night, and say that you were unlucky. But 8 major finals to lose all 8, the longer it goes on, it is going to be frustrating for Michael Smith, but he is close, and I think he's just got to keep the faith, as I would say. That major isn't far away from being won.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, you can point to a couple of moments where he had a chance, a couple of outshots that he missed last start in hand, combination outs that could have swung the match. I mean, obviously, the missed start at Bull on the 170, but also the 112 in was it the penultimate or third to last leg? But that's about it over the course of that match. I think that 112 in the penultimate leg was the best chance he had, because he could have pulled even. And it was a leg that Ross Smith took in the end 17 darts to close out, and he kicked it off with a 43. Michael Smith just had a couple of visits in that leg where he didn't give himself a good enough chance. That 58 in his second visit and the 58 from 170 in the fourth visit, where if he had just been able to find a treble in those 2 visits, or even in either of those visits, he would have not needed 112, but he would have needed 72 or possibly 32 if he had hit a treble in each of those visits. And those are the legs that he needed to win. In a match where his opponent wasn't making mistakes, he needed to be ready to punish on those rare opportunities that his opponent gives him against the darts 5 visits. And Michael Smith was left on 112. He did have a dart at double out, and it wasn't a poorly thrown dart. It was just a little light and went just a little low. But he should have been lower than 112 in that leg. And that might be the moment that he looks back on. But beyond that, what can you say? It's not that he messed up. Ross Smith just played a match of his life in a tournament of his life. You do wonder, will it ever happen to Michael Smith? He's been unlucky in 2 of the 3 this calendar year. We've talked endlessly about the World Championship final where Peter Wright played the darts of his life to win those last 3 sets to turn that match around. And Michael Smith just could not keep up with the 116 that Peter Wright was throwing. And then here against Ross Smith played the darts of his life to just keep at a great standard for 3 sessions and do enough over the last 4 legs to make sure that Michael Smith didn't turn it around. The only one this year where Michael Smith did not turn up and could be set to bottle, it was that match against Danny Noppert. I think he was unlucky here. He had a couple opportunities, and you mentioned the one time that Ross Smith missed 3 at hand, Michael Smith did punish. But he didn't have enough opportunities to punish. And even though you can pick those moments like I did, that 112 in the penultimate leg where he could have been in a better position and he could have turned that match around, it wasn't major mistake. It was a moment that a leg he could have played better, but there weren't that many of them. And that's why Ross Smith was the champion.